Hello and welcome to Just a Moment. My name is Kristen Harding. Welcome to the show. Wow, Lionsgate, this amazing energy. So let's start with our blessing card, shall we? Today, we're going to just remind everyone these are Lucy Cavendish's Blessed Be blessing cards. A little bit different than tarot, just blessings. That's all. They are kind of a Celtic in nature, so that's kind of cool. So the first one that came up today, and welcome everyone. I really appreciate you being here and sharing this little story time with me. I really love doing the interviews and I love reading aloud. So it's just a win-win. So here we go. The first card, a blessing on your creativity. And if you're anything like me, the muse has been hitting hard. All right, so a blessing on your creativity. A blessing to stoke the fires of your creative soul, to bring birth to the dreams that lie in wait within you, a blessing to charge up your gifts so that they can be seen and shine within the world. Creativity is a blessing given to us all. Yours is as natural to you as your breathing. It is said that some are more creative than others, but for you, this gift is lying in wait now, and it is for you to bring it to your dedication and your attention so it can arise from its sleep and awaken into the world. You have creative gifts, the gift of thinking in a new way, seeing things differently, telling a story through clay or wood or gems or words or paint. And in the telling of the story, holding a mirror up to our existence, saying, see, this is the truth of who we are. Creativity is the act of making something and letting it have life. To be a creator an art. No age, job, no relationship defines you, but it is the way in which you choose to live as art that will show us who you truly are. So, wild soul, a blessing on your creativity. May you show us your gifts. Cool blessing. All right, the second one that came through. Morgan's blessing, peace after battle. A traditional blessing for those who have suffered hard times to be returned to peace and prosperity. Peace as high as the sky, sky to the earth, earth beneath sky, strength in everyone, a cup very full, a fullness of honey, honor enough, summer in winter. Spear supported by shield, shields supported by forts, forts fierce, eager for battle, fleeced from sheep, wood grown with antler tips, forever destruction have departed, nuts of trees, forever destructions have departed, a branch dropping from the growth, wealth for a son very learned, neck of a bull from a song, nuts in the woods, wood for a fire, fire is wanted, palisades new and bright, salmon their victory, the boyne their shelter, shelter with an excellence of length, new growth after spring. In autumn horses increase over the land, land told of with excellence of word. Be might to the eternal, most excellent woods, peace as high as the sky, 9 times eternal. There's some poetry there. Alrighty, we're almost finished with our book. You're not dying, you're just waking up. By Elizabeth April, and we are on the very last chapter. So let us begin. This one's going to be fun. First, I should go over to the comments and say hello to everybody. Hello, Paul. Hello, Benny. Let's see, what does he say? Show on stage. You gotta love it when you get blessings, right? Blessings everywhere. All right. So I'll just pop that off. He says, hello, Kristen Harding. God bless you and Paul Harding. Have a great show. Thank you. And so let us commence and start on chapter 18. It is called Mastering Your Reality, from Victim to God. Hey, Starseed, have you wondered who God was? Have you ever imagined what it would be like to be in the presence of God? To feel the energy of something so powerful? Well, maybe it's time that you take a look at yourself in the mirror. Regardless of who or what you think God or Source is, you are a part of that greater whole. You have a piece of that vibration within yourself. It's actually what makes you you. When you awaken, you realize no one else is in control of your reality but you. You wrote your contracts, you designed your blueprint. You even chose how long each incarnation lasts. All of that before, during, and after a lifetime is up to you. If you come from a place of lack or limitation, you may believe that the world is happening to you and not the other way around. It's time to rise up, Starseed. Nothing is holding you back. You created all of this. So what isn't serving you? What doesn't feel in alignment? If you created all the good, then you created all the bad. If you created all the bad, you can then uncreate and recreate. The power is and always was in your hands, Starseed. So what's next for you? And that's a quote from Elizabeth April. The information in this chapter is so huge. I will need to write an entire book on this one day. Or honestly, hopefully not, since my intention is that humanity will just simply get it at some point in the future. There are many ways in which you can master your reality, but only one in which I want to speak about and explain. As I have said before, we start off on this planet blissfully ignorant to our own power and capabilities. This leaves generation after generation feeling restless, emotionally disconnected, and depressed. We have been led to believe that we are insignificant and that we have no power whatsoever. In reality, the truth is completely the opposite. We have so much power. In fact, every little aspect of your life has been meticulously planned and created by you. Religion, your boss, the government, the education system, and so on will lead you to believe that you have no control over the flow of your life. Most of the time when we get wrapped up in this victimhood, we attempt to have control over other aspects of our life so we don't feel so powerless. This may look like eating an extra bag of chips or yelling at your husband or for not putting his dishes away. In other cases, we may distract ourselves from the lack of control we feel by drinking alcohol or watching too much TV. Of course, that then leads us into a state of living outside of ourselves, filling voids, and so on. It's time we switch our reality from victim to God. I have said this for a long time, and I hope it will be one of my greatest teachings. You are your own God. Full stop. End of story. This very belief is also the reason why I get so much criticism as well. Now, although science, yes, science, has proven that we create our own reality through conscious observation, I will not be explaining the double slit experiment in this book. If you really want, you can go ahead and look it up, and I recommend you do so. I can sum it up for you. When they observed it, it changed. When it wasn't observed, it went a different way. That's a sum up. But anyway, do look up the double split experiment. It kind of sheds a lot of light on stuff. All right. By me stating with full confidence that you are your own God, I am making the statement that you created everything in your life. However, you in particular didn't create everything in the universe, even though aspects of the source energy run through each of us. It's what gives us consciousness. It's what gives us life. Here are some helpful definitions before we move forward, since the English language is so limited and convoluted. Definition of you as a God, the sole creator of your reality, which consists of the physical and non-physical aspects of your current and infinite existence. EA definition of the universe, source, energy, universal consciousness, oneness. The all that is, the vibrational frequency which exists everywhere. It is the source of all creation, both physical and non-physical. Reminder, I will interchange the way I spell universe, sometimes with the U, Y-O-U, at the front, because I seriously want to ingrain in your minds that there is absolutely no separation between source and you. EA's definition of free will, the ability to make choices in the present moment which are not inhibited by any external influence. EA's definition of destiny, contracts, blueprints, life path. The blueprint of your life that has been set in motion for you. This path was created for you and by you. The difference between destiny and free will is a question I get all the time, so it's only appropriate that I put it in this book. The understanding of these concepts will also help you in your becoming your own God, even though there is no becoming who you've always been. Most of the time, life feels like it's just happening to us, and we are forced to make decisions on the spot and in the moment. As we begin to awaken, we begin to understand that we are the ones happening to life. From inception all the way to the end, we are choosing our path. Obviously, life becomes easier when we become aware of these choices we make, therefore becoming aware of the repercussions from those choices, the reality around you. When you start utilizing this understanding, you begin to have full responsibility over your reality. Therefore, you are able to create any reality you feel is in the highest alignment with your soul. And believe me, that is something I claim daily, that my reality will be in alignment with the highest good for my soul. Destiny. There have been many, many speculations about what the term destiny or fate is. I have the answer to this, but as always, please use your discernment. Before we get into what destiny means, we must first touch upon the pre-incarnation phase. Basically, your pre-incarnation phase is where you were at and what you were choosing before you decided who you wanted to be in this incarnation. Before you incarnate, you sit down with your guardians, angels, spirit guides, parallel versions of yourself, higher self, basically a whole troop of beings who represent your best and highest interest. The main discussion related to each life is, what are you meant to learn? And what are you meant to complete? Remember, each life can consist of you incarnating into any living thing across the universe, a plant, an animal, a being on or off planet Earth. The destiny in your life is a representation of the contracts you created for your incarnation and lifetime. I would like to briefly lay out the structure of the universe. This is a vast and expansive concept, but this will at least answer some of the biggest questions your soul has had for a long time. The purpose of existence. We can all agree that we are the universe experiencing itself, but I am going to attempt to answer the question of why the universe would choose to do this. Yes, that's right. I am literally about to tell you the purpose of existence. While I'm sure that you have heard clips or versions of this information before, I hope that this helps to validate some deep feelings that you have had. I always feel that the information which comes through me is not mine. It belongs to everyone. When I teach this information, I am simply reminding you of what you already know, not giving you anything new. Before incarnation, we are in clear harmonic connection with source energy, without ego, and therefore remember the truths of the universe. After incarnation, of course, we end up forgetting these universal truths and struggle to find real purpose again. When I began consciously channeling and downloading information at the age of 18 in this life, the biggest question I had nagging at me was, why? Why do we exist? Why do we incarnate? Why do we put ourselves through this shit? Good question. Okay, there we go. Now I will only be explaining the purpose of all incarnations across this universe here, and we'll get around to the real purpose of humanity on this planet in the chapter Unlocking Your DNA. So back to the purpose of life. Essentially, to understand why we incarnate ourselves and actually live life, we need to first understand why the source, God, universe, decided to incarnate in the first place. Source is an infinite vibration of all knowledge and a dualistic universe. That's where we can understand this reality as consisting of ones and zeros, of black and white, of high vibration and low vibration. Becoming a dualistic or polarized universe was the main way Source was able to see itself in different reflections. Now, I'm sure other universes have different systems of existence, but I will leave that for another book. Let's stick to this universe for now. The duality of the system also implies that in order to have everything, you must first start with nothing. Camera Ding. There we go. Don't panic. It's just a glitch. Glitch, glitch, glitch. Okay, where were we? Okay, another book. Let's stick to the universe for now. The duality system also implies that in order to have everything, you must first start with nothing. It may, but what exactly is it learning? The lessons of the universe. As I mentioned, the very existence of this universe is based on the concept of a duality system. Therefore, all the lessons contained and learned within the system is structured around polarity. Please keep in mind that I will explain the lessons within the universe within a linear understanding so that it's easier to comprehend. However, we need to understand that everything I explain can and does happen simultaneously as well. So here goes. I understand this universe has 12 different dimensions to it. Before we continue, I must first define what a dimension is. A vibrational frequency container. Each dimension is made up of a vibration. In fact, this entire universe is made up of vibration. However, instead of simply having vibrational chaos, there is actually a structure set in place. The structure of vibration comes through different frequencies. You can imagine each dimension as a radio station. You can only perceive that layer of the universe if you're tuned into the corresponding radio wave or frequency. Every once in a while, the radio stations or dimensions will overlap and create static, similar to two songs being played at the same time. Each incarnation we choose is contained within one of these dimensions. Each dimension has different frequencies, and these frequencies allow us to learn different lessons. As the dimensions get higher, the frequencies become higher as well. Right now on this planet, we are overlapping the third dimensional frequency with the fourth and the fifth, making it a very weird time to exist here. This overlap can create chaos, confusion, or even tears. Even tears, there we go, and paradoxes within the time-space continuum of the universe. From birth, or the beginning of our separation from Source, we have a mission to experience all the possible lessons within this universe, making it quite a journey to undertake. After learning everything there is to know here, we have a choice to make. Do we either A, go back to Source as a part of the whole, or do we B, choose to leave this universe and create our own with the tools that we have gained by being here? I have difficulties even comprehending that choice since I'm not there yet. If we think about the progression as a linear progression, the easiest way to understand it, we can think about the first ever soul incarnation starting in dimension 1. Within the first dimension, the vibrations are extremely low, dense, and separated from Source. This is the farthest away we can get from Source. Remember, Source is all knowledge. Say, for example, there are 10 lessons that we need to learn while contained in dimension 1. Usually the lower dimensions, the more simple the incarnation, and therefore the fewer lessons there are to learn. Think of a tree and the simplicity of the lessons it has to learn. Compare that incarnation and its lessons to the lessons of a dog. Then compare the dog's lessons to the lessons of a human. When I was first introduced to this concept, it was my understanding that you go through the dimensions one by one. Once you learn the lessons of the first, you then graduate to the second dimension, and so on and so forth, until you get up to the 12th dimension. Upon doing thousands of past life regressions, I began to notice that a lot of humans on this planet are coming from very advanced lifetimes as interdimensional beings in high dimensions. This baffled me, and I began to understand that although there is a system, the universe doesn't work in a linear fashion. However, the concept of learning and all the lessons you need to learn in each dimensional incarnation still remains true. The most interesting part about learning all the lessons in each dimension is that an awakened being isn't just learning those lessons for themselves. Your last incarnation within each dimension is dedicated teaching all the lessons you have learned. If our essence is all the same, if we are all aspects of Source, then we are not just living for ourselves, we are living for the collective. It is our duty to share the knowledge. Unfortunately, learning lessons requires challenge and resistance. Think about it. If you had an amazing family dynamic, lots of friends, and all the financial abundance in the world, there would literally be no reason to change, and therefore there would be no reason for growth. Challenge creates growth. Although in each incarnation we learn many, and I mean many things, there is always one main lesson. In particular, we are here to learn. Our physical body always reflects this lesson. The more complex we are in our physical form, the more complex the lesson. If you were a tree, for example, you're not going to be setting the contract to learn the lesson of ego death. Likewise, it would be extremely difficult for a tree to learn the lesson of forgiveness, attachment, and emotion. Instead, you would set the intention as a soul to learn the lesson of patience, of grounding, meditation, and connection to the planet. None of these lessons require a brain to learn them. In fact, as you know, it's our human brain that gets in the way of learning many of these more simple lessons. We actually have a tendency to overcomplicate them. Although I mentioned above that it's not as simple as going from dimension 1 to dimension 12 in a linear fashion, it would be much easier to do so. Think about being an ant in one life and then moving to the 11th dimension to be an intelligent Arcturian being in the next. Now think about moving from the 12th dimensional mantis into the body of a third dimensional human. Those switches can be quite difficult and sometimes damaging to our progression. Before you choose to incarnate, no matter what the incarnation is, you decide what lessons you need to learn. If you stay as a human, you may need to learn how to be humble. You may choose to birth yourself into a body that has weight issues in the 21st century. Likewise, if you have a tendency to attach yourself to the physical material world, you'll choose to be born to an impoverished family, and so on and so on. You can you can find out your biggest life lesson easily by looking at two aspects of your current life. What has been your biggest struggle? Remember that one person's struggle can be another person's strength, which means they have already learned the lesson. What has been your biggest repeating pattern? When issues arise and continue to repeat, it means you haven't yet learned the lesson, and that's why you choose to bring it back again until you do. Side note, just because you decide to create a blueprint to learn a lesson in one incarnation doesn't mean you will actually learn it. Ultimately, it is your free will in the present moment which determines whether or not you will learn that lesson, depending on how much resistance you hold to change. I have seen people relive the same lesson for 10 plus lifetimes. For example, I had a client who chose the lesson of grief and grieving. This lesson is also intertwined with the lesson of attachment. Now, of course, we can all agree the hardest attachment to break is the attachment to life itself and the lives of loved ones around us. I truly believe that there is no such thing as death, therefore, this lesson no longer affects me. This represents the fact that I have learned this particular lesson. Remember, the more resistant, the more resistance you have, the greater the lesson is. This client in particular was on her 10th lifetime learning the same lesson. That's potentially 1,000 years as a human just to learn one lesson. Unfortunately, starting in her childhood, everyone she ever loved in this life had passed away. I believe that with the information I shared, she was able to truly let this lesson go and move on. Likewise, you can have a soul so determined to learn that they take every lifetime as an opportunity to move through a lesson. So 10 incarnations can result in learning 10 lessons. This is exactly why the concept of old soul and young soul shouldn't exist. It's not about the time that you spend incarnated. It's about the lessons you choose to experience and learn within them. What are you here to complete? Okay, so that was a mouthful. Let's move on to the other reason why you create contracts. Ever heard about that thing called karma? Yeah, well, it is actually a thing. Karma is a concept that exists throughout all the universe and absolutely does not only apply to this planet or this incarnation. I've actually seen humans completing karma from past interdimensional lifetimes. How wild is that? Every time we make a decision in the present moment, whether we are aware of making that decision or it's a decision made on an autopilot, the universe is always reflecting, reacting, and responding to the vibration of that decision. Let me further describe the concept of karma before we move forward. Definition of karma. Oh, what does Benny say? Okay, Benny says, I would say the soul is here for the experience. Well, yeah, but that's what Source wants us to do. That's why he incarnates us, to have the experiences, because all experiences are valuable to Source. All right, where was I? Biggest struggle, karma. The energetic reverb created when using our free will to make a choice, both in the physical and non-physical realms. Every single thought, action, and reaction gives off a vibrational frequency. Because we live in a dualistic universe, these frequencies will either have a high vibration or a low vibration. Karma can be thought of like a boomerang. Whatever you give off will come back eventually. Many people assume karma is a bad thing because it becomes most apparent to those who deserve that kickback. However, karma does not choose sides. It's just the effect of a cause. It's just the reverb of a vibration. When we dive deeper into the understanding of karma, we begin to understand that every being across this entire universe experiences karma. When I began channeling cosmic lifetimes for clients, I observed humans clearing old karma for these lives. from these lives. Here I was, thinking we deal with the reverb from each life and move on, but actually karma builds up and rolls over into your next life. Seems a bit scary when you think about it that way. Ultimately, we must keep in mind that we are always in charge of the decisions we make, and therefore in charge of the karma we create and have to clear. Karma itself and how we clear it is such a massive subject that I am currently halfway through writing an entire book about it. Karma exists in the first place because we are sovereign beings who possess free will. Karma is like the police or jail of the universe. All intelligent beings in this universe know it all. In fact, it is the exact opposite. We are the ones who decided on the layout and the flow of our lives. The only thing that is able to override these contracts or destiny is our own free will. Are you beginning to notice how no matter what, you have the power? Before, during, and even after incarnation, you are the only one making choices and decisions. If we choose not to listen to the signs around us, we will override those contracts without even being aware of it. A lot of people talk about overriding destiny as a good thing, but ultimately, if you choose your destiny contracts before your incarnation, why would you want to override them? In a sense, you created your contracts while you were a soul without a body. You created your blueprints free of attachment, aversion, ignorance, and emotion, free of physical limitations. Trust me, you want to listen to the signs pointing you in the direction of your path. Once again, these contracts help you learn and grow. Example of overriding contracts with your free will. Say, for example, you wrote contracts to have a romantic relationship with another soul in this lifetime. Remember that each of these contracts will help you complete old energy, and they will simultaneously help you learn something new within that experience. You were both contracted and chose to be together for 5 years before you were even incarnated in this life. During the relationship, there were ups and downs and everything in between. And at the end of those contracts, you both decided that it was so good you should just be together forever. Why? Probably because the programming within society tells you that that is the next logical step. So instead of just being in the present moment with each other and instead, just be in the present moment with each other and listen to your intuition. Choosing anything through societal pressures and obligation will always lead to feeling unfulfilled. 2 years after the 5-year contract, things are beginning to get extremely disharmonic. You are fighting all the time. You both seem to misunderstand the other. You are clearly separating your energies. Now, although your higher self, the universe, and your spirit guides will attempt to give you signs and messages reminding you of your original contracts, your free will has the ability to override them for better or for worse. Choice is always up to you. Once again, it usually doesn't turn out so great when you decide to override your contracts with your free will. However, you wouldn't be a creation from source if you didn't have the power of free will in every moment. Ultimately, free will is a powerful thing. I suggest you utilize your free will in tandem with your intuition and signs from the universe so that you are always in alignment with your contracts and higher purpose on this planet. The more off-path blueprint you are, the more resistance, struggle, and disharmony you will be faced with. That's a good time to stop and reevaluate life. EA's definition of self fulfilling prophecy: a loop where your thoughts create an outcome without your awareness of being the creator. In every moment, you are creating the next moment. As we exist in the third dimension, we are forced to deal with many limitations and challenges. Because of these limitations, most of the time we are unaware of what we are and what we have the ability to create. However, all of this starts to change the more we become, the higher the vibration we have, ascending into the fifth dimension, the faster our thoughts become things. If you go into work every day and tell yourself you hate your job, and then 3 minutes later your boss fires you, you can't blame him. Deep down, that's what you really wanted. By getting caught up in that victim mentality, we convince ourselves life is happening to us, and we feel helpless. We actually choose to not remember we really wanted that in the first place. So we can feel sorry for ourselves, which obviously will get you nowhere. If you go out into the world and feel fat that day, you will attract that validation in your reality. Maybe within the same day, or maybe a week from then, or even a few months from that original thought. The more you repeat a belief system in your mind, the clearer it becomes in your reality. This entire life is a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you really truly believed your thoughts create your reality, wouldn't you be super cautious about every thought you ever had? Even for me, at times it can be difficult to get a grasp over all the thoughts constantly going on. That's why it's important for us to set intentions as well as finding moments to just quiet our mind. We cannot avoid the fact that our entire existence is a self fulfilling prophecy. But what we can do is harness the responsibility to change what it is we are creating. You are applying for a new job, your dream job. Deep down, your old habit patterns tell that you aren't good enough for this or skilled enough to get this job. Your old self convinces you of this. Eventually, you apply for the job, but you end the fight within yourself by saying, well, it's up to the universe now. Because you are the universe, what you attract will depend on the vibration you have at the moment you asked for that thing. Therefore, if the last thought you had before leaving it up to the universe was that you don't feel good enough, what do you think is going to happen? You're probably not going to get the job because you are your own self fulfilling prophecy. You are the universe. Leaving it up to the universe to decide is essentially just leaving it up to yourself. Do you see how silly this loop is when you really begin to take a look at it? You are in complete control, so stop pretending you aren't. This brings us to the next level of our awakening evolution, unlocking your DNA. On a personal note, when I first stepped into all of this knowledge, it was quite overwhelming. I immediately got stuck in the whole destiny versus free will debate. I felt everything in my, could I switch up my reality today? I would then get stuck in paradox loops. But what if it was always my destiny to take the purple pen and throw it across the room? What if I'm just feeding into the algorithm of this reality? I definitely freaked myself out 1 or 2 times. I eventually learned that we shouldn't fight or resist our destiny. We were the creators of our blueprints and contracts. We created these contracts without attachment, ego, or even body. We created the dynamics in our current incarnation for a reason. All suffering and challenge will lead us into growth and evolution. Within the past year or so, I have even come to the understanding that our destiny was actually created by our free will. Destiny is just limited understanding of our own power and ability to choose. We just choose our life path at a prior time and location, so we actually don't remember choosing, which means we feel like life is out of our control. But the limitation of forgetfulness itself is here to teach us a profound lesson. You are, are in power. You have always been in power. And it's time to fully own that. The second I owned the fact that I created my reality, everything started to move and align at a rapid pace. Well, that is the end of the chapter, and we are just about in an hour. Next chapter is chapter 19, and that is all that is left of our book. You believe it? Craziness. So there's a couple questions here or comments, and I love them. So let us take a little looky-loo. Benny says the soul has its own path through the incarnations to achieve its goal to not return. Well, exactly. If you've learned everything, you wouldn't want to return. But how could you possibly learn and experience and feel everything there is to feel? Who knows? Who knows? All right. The life lessons have the choice on how you handle them, and the experience can give wisdom or doubt. Yeah, I agree with that. What are you learning? See, that's the thing. It's not what's happening to us, it's what is this teaching us. And when you shift, when you make that little shift, everything can change for you. But we are at the end, so that is all for now, my very dear friends. Thank you so much for joining me. Never forget that you are amazing, you are loved. Be well, be safe out there, protect your peace, and I'll see you on the next show. Bye.